How does it all look? Is my hair good? It's all good.
I didn't know much about him.
Well, that's just not true. I'm not sure exactly what the outcome will be, but definitely not.
You know, some stories don't explode right away. They simmer in the shadows, like a thunderstorm waiting just beyond the horizon. You hear the rumble for years, but you never see the lightning until one day, the sky finally splits open. That's exactly what happened when Ghislaine Maxwell, the woman at the dark heart of Jeffrey Epstein's empire, finally started talking from behind prison walls. And in her chilling whispers, she said a name no one ever expected: Meghan Markle. Not as a bystander, not as a random celebrity, but as someone who, according to Maxwell's own words, was much closer to the Epstein circle than the world could have ever imagined. For years, people believed Meghan's story began in 2016, the sweet actress who met her prince and walked into royal life like a fairy tale. But Maxwell's revelations hinted at something far older, far murkier, and far more disturbing. A story buried under redacted testimonies, hidden encounters, and secrets someone, somewhere, clearly wanted erased forever. When Maxwell's testimony was made public, the world expected chaos, a tidal wave of secrets, names, shocking events. But what they got instead was a document blacked out beyond recognition. Entire pages, entire conversations gone. And yet, more disturbing than all those redactions was this: more than 12 hours of Maxwell's testimony were missing entirely, sealed, hidden, locked away. 12 hours. Imagine that, an entire school day of talking, completely erased. And those who've seen fragments of the transcript say it wasn't random, it was strategic. Those blacked out sections weren't about privacy, they were about protection. Because somewhere inside those sealed hours, Meghan Markle's name appeared. Not as gossip, not as rumor, but linked to people and places that could rewrite everything the world thought it knew. Long before Harry ever proposed, before the palace balcony photos, before the Netflix glamour, Meghan's name, according to whispers from inside the courtrooms, was part of a testimony no one was ever meant to hear. And that's where this story begins, the missing hours. Because not long after, something strange happened. Meghan Markle's name surfaced again, this time in the witness list of Virginia Roberts, one of the central figures who helped bring the Epstein empire crashing down. Yes, Virginia herself allegedly requested Meghan as a witness. Why? Because, according to her, Meghan had direct knowledge of certain individuals, particularly Prince Andrew, long before she became a duchess. And that's not a random claim. This came from a woman whose testimony exposed one of the darkest networks in modern history. If Virginia wanted Meghan's voice in that courtroom, it wasn't because Meghan was famous. It was because she might have known something too close, too personal, too inconvenient. But that witness request never saw daylight. Somewhere in the legal corridors, that door slammed shut. Someone made sure Meghan's name stayed far away from those court transcripts. And that's when Maxwell dropped the next bombshell from prison. She claimed Meghan Markle had once gone by a very different name: Flower. Not as a stage name, not for a film role, but as an alias. A name used in adult entertainment spaces and exclusive social circles connected to Epstein's world. Maxwell said she knew her not just as another face from Hollywood, but from an overlapping circle that operated behind velvet ropes, in private back rooms, and whispered guest lists. Flower was a name, Maxwell claimed, used among the kinds of guests who attended secret parties where wealth, power, and danger mixed in equal measure. And according to her, Meghan wasn't a stranger there. She belonged to that atmosphere. She moved through those spaces. She mingled with people who later became central to the scandal. Now, think about that for a moment. If that's true, it means Meghan's entry into royal life wasn't some random fairy tale. It wasn't a Hollywood dream come true, it was the continuation of a path she'd already been walking, one connected to the very world the royals had spent decades trying to bury. Because back in the early 2000s and 2010 seconds, Prince Andrew wasn't just some quiet royal, he was everywhere. Dinners, galas, private yachts with Epstein and Maxwell. These weren't public events. Every person there had to be someone important or connected to someone who was. And in those same circles, according to sources, Meghan's name quietly appeared. She wasn't famous then, not yet a duchess, just an ambitious actress with a hunger for influence and a knack for being seen in the right places. She wasn't there romantically, that was never the claim, but she was there. She saw, she heard, she learned, Through those corridors of wealth and secrecy, she crossed paths with people whose lives would later explode under public scrutiny, people tied to Andrew, to Epstein, to Maxwell. And when Virginia Roberts later mentioned Meghan's name as a potential witness, it suddenly made sense. Meghan had been around long enough to see things, to remember faces. But every story like this has a hidden player. And in this one, it was Sarah Ferguson. Yes, Fergie, Andrew's ex-wife. The woman who, for years, danced between scandal and loyalty, always tied to the royal circle by money, children, and headlines. The public story says Meghan and Fergie met just before the royal wedding. A polite, charming meeting. But insiders? They whisper something else. They say Fergie and Meghan knew each other long before Harry ever entered the picture. They moved in the same elite social circles, Maxwell circles, yacht parties, charity dinners, private London clubs where power was currency and secrets were shared over champagne. Some even claim Fergie once competed with Maxwell for influence among those powerful men trying to claim her spot in that silent hierarchy. Was Meghan caught in that world too? Possibly. But when Meghan's fame started rising, Fergie reportedly tried to block her from getting too close to Andrew. Was it jealousy or protection? No one can say for sure. But one thing is clear, Fergie knew Meghan's world. She understood who she'd been before the fairy tale began. And that brings us to the night that changed everything, the night Meghan's path crossed with Prince Harry's. People love to say it was a romantic coincidence, a blind date arranged by friends. But was it really coincidence, or was it something far more orchestrated? Because around that same time, Meghan was moving through another exclusive network, Soho House, the glittering playground of the elite filled with billionaires, royals, and Hollywood's rising stars. And at the heart of that web was Ron Burkle, a billionaire whose connections stretched from politics to entertainment and quietly into Maxwell's world. In April 2015, Soho House opened a lavish new branch in Istanbul. It wasn't just an event, it was the event. Prince Harry was there. Prince Charles was there. And yes, Meghan Markle was there too. Some said she came with a friend. Others whispered that Burkle himself arranged the introductions. But either way, that night, the lights, the music, the perfectly curated guest list, it all felt designed. And within months, Meghan began her remarkable transformation. She rebranded herself almost overnight, from actress to humanitarian, from red carpet to royal ready. The timing was too perfect, too polished. Someone, somewhere, seemed to be smoothing the path ahead. Because people don't just rise that fast on their own, not in those circles. And whispers began to spread. Maybe Meghan wasn't just lucky. Maybe she was placed, guided, moved from one world to another, not for love, but for strategy. Because when you look closely, the redactions in those court files don't seem to protect Meghan. They seem to protect the people who put her there. Powerful names, Hollywood executives, political donors, men tied to royal foundations and global finance. If Meghan was even briefly in those environments, she might have witnessed things that could ruin reputations. That's why, insiders say, those blacked-out hours matter. Meghan wasn't the threat, she was the witness. And witnesses, especially ones who end up inside royal palaces, must be managed carefully. Which brings us to the present. Because this isn't just about Meghan's past, it's about why the royal family is more divided than ever. Inside the palace, silence isn't just tradition, it's survival. Reputation is sacred, and for Prince William, that's non-negotiable. He reportedly drew one hard line: Meghan will never be allowed back into the royal inner circle. Not because of Netflix interviews or Oprah tell-alls, but because her past connects to worlds he wants buried forever. Worlds tied to Andrew, Fergie, and everything the monarchy is still trying to erase. Remember Balmoral? When Andrew tried to attend church, William gave a quiet ultimatum: either he comes or I do. Andrew left. That moment said everything. William is done tolerating anyone linked, even remotely, to that old web of power and secrecy. And Meghan? She's not just Harry's wife in his eyes, she's a reminder of that world, a woman who's seen too much, heard too much about the shadows surrounding the crown. But what if this all started somewhere even darker? Every big story has a small beginning, a night, a glance, a place. And for Meghan, those who whisper about her past say it began not at a palace, not on a set, but on a yacht. Not a luxury vacation, not a film shoot, but one of those yachts, the kind where deals are made, introductions are traded, and the rules of the night are written by the powerful. They say Meghan, then known as Flower, was there. The music soft, the sea calm, the air heavy with expensive perfume and secrets, powerful men, young women. And in that glittering, dangerous silence, a new player stepped into the game. She didn't know it then, but every face she met that night would later shape her fate. That was the night the fairy tale really began. From that yacht to that testimony, from the sealed files to the palace balcony, it's all connected. And now, with Maxwell talking again, those old names are surfacing. The storm that began years ago, under moonlight and secrecy, is rising once more. Because Meghan Markle's danger was never about what she did, it's about what she knows. And the real question isn't whether her past will come out, it's whether the world is finally ready to face it. And yet, even after all these revelations, there's one thing no one can quite explain: why Meghan has never publicly addressed any of these whispers. For a woman who once said she'd never stay silent in the face of injustice, she's been remarkably quiet when it comes to her name being linked to Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony. Not one clarification, not one denial, just silence. And in the royal world, silence often speaks louder than any statement ever could. People close to the palace say that this silence isn't just personal, it's strategic. Meghan knows that one wrong word could reopen doors that were deliberately sealed. Those missing 12 hours of Maxwell's testimony? They're not gone, they're just waiting. Waiting for someone powerful enough or foolish enough to unlock them. And if that ever happens, everything could change again. Behind the glitter of California sunshine and the polished PR appearances, there's a quiet tension. Insiders claim Meghan still receives calls, people checking in, reminding her of the old days, of who she once knew, of what she once saw. Some even say those reminders come from people connected to the same world she escaped. Because once you've stepped into that circle, you never really leave. The faces change, the names change, but the power stays the same. And maybe that's why Prince Harry looks so restless these days. The man who once fought the press now looks haunted by something deeper, something no press statement can fix. The love story that once captured the world might have been built on secrets neither of them fully understood. And if the truth about Meghan's past ever does come to light, it won't just shake the palace, it will shake every name written and redacted within those hidden pages.